to the channel. Joe Fortin here. Today I am here with my friend. I'm going to introduce. This is Rae of Light.
Hello.
And Rae is here today with me to discuss a few different topics. We're going to talk about metaphysics. We're going to talk about the current energies. We're going to talk about this movement into the Aquarian energies. We're just going to talk about some current events and things like that. And Rae is one of my very good friends. She's one of the most knowledgeable people, one of the most well-read people that I know. And so I'm honored to have you on the channel today.
Oh, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here.
Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know that you had some interest in starting your own channel. Tell us about that, and and then we'll kind of just roll into it.
Yeah, I've been contemplating it for a while and just taking my time to, kind of fill it out. But I think I've decided that I'm going to start my channel, Rae of Light, and my intent really is to connect with the greater community that's feeling this shift that we're feeling. And just to bring on amazing guests, probably love to have you on my channel and some other people that I look up to that have been in this sort of, I don't know if I want to call it fight for a long time, but this sort of movement towards truth and reclaiming our power and all of that. So yeah, I'm excited to start it.
Oh, it sounds awesome. I feel like the more of us can, put out content like this, the more of us can connect. I mean, the more of a ripple effect that we can have.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's happening already just through connecting, like we have, it's just kind of like random chance, that we met and that we're here and that kind of thing. And I'll say just some words of encouragement. Like, I have met some of the most amazing people through doing my channel, some of my best friends I have never actually physically met, but we talk. I have friends I talk to every day that I met through making videos. So it's definitely been a blessing, and
I can feel that.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
I can feel that that's how that happens, and especially in this digital age, there's so much, I guess, I don't want to call it negative, but there's so many ways that the digital realm can be detrimental if you're not careful. Yeah. But there's so many positive things to it, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
connecting to people all over and
totally. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be where we're at if we didn't have this level of connectivity.
Right.
It's been used, by the so-called dark side, for negative agendas and all kinds of different things, but people have also been able to access information that they definitely would not have otherwise been able to access through this technology. I mean, I wouldn't know probably a quarter of the things that I know now without the ability to I literally have thousands of PDFs on occult knowledge and science and just holistic medicine and nutrition and all these different topics that I wouldn't have if we didn't have the ability to, for example, put 1,000 PDFs on a cloud service and just send it to somebody and be like, here you go.
Yeah, totally.
We were talking about some stuff the other night, and I remember kind of trying to make this mental note of we need to talk about this, and now I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure it'll probably come up in the course of our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can touch on what you said about the internet a little bit more because I had some thoughts come up on that.
Go ahead.
I began my research journey using the internet. I was around before the internet was a thing.
Yeah.
Well, at least to the public. And so I started pretty young, and I'm just an avid investigator. That's my personality. So I'm just constantly give me more info, and digging. And I mean, in the age of information, there's kind of no excuse for ignorance anymore, I feel, because it really is all out there and it's at our fingertips. There's definitely a lot of disinformation, so it's a double-edged sword, but it's definitely accessible, way more than in any time in history, you know, like, so it's really magical.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're aware of, I know you've watched Mark Passio.
Yeah.
And he makes that distinction between like nescience and ignorance.
Yes.
And we are, you know, many of us, and you know, the thing about it is there's so many different realms to explore, right? But like, you know, a lot of us still are in that ignorance. We're intentionally ignoring the information instead of looking at it, you know, even
Absolutely.
when we've been told, even when we've been warned, you know, and you know, one of the things I'm seeing with a lot of people right now, and of course I went through this, I'm sure you've been through this, is that a lot of people are really getting beaten down energetically right now, and they're getting backed into a corner. But and it looks kind of negative, right? But like, that's actually where they need to be, because when they get backed into that corner, that's when they have to like fight their way out. You know what I mean? Or at least, you know, me with the warrior mentality, I know you can relate to this. It's like, I'm gonna claw my way out, man. You know, but like, that's sometimes where you need to get to in order to see, you know, that there is a better way.
Yeah, like when your back is up against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that warriorship is, honestly, for me, it's been more about surrendering than fighting, and that the fight is actually a surrender to a greater level of awareness, to where your emotions aren't reactive to the things that are happening.
Yeah,
and
that's an
like,
interesting dichotomy.
Like, I'm getting goosebumps. Like, it was such a huge lesson, because when this stuff all first started, like the whole, you know, pandemic and all that stuff.
We're gonna use that word.
Yeah, that's what they use. It's like, is it okay? You know, I figured if I said the other word that it really is, you know, with the scam in front of it, that you know, I don't want to, like, you know, get your channel taken down or whatever. But
no, no, you can say whatever you want.
Okay, cool. Well, when the scamdemic thing happened, I was really triggered, you know, like by all the like sheeple or whatever, and it's like, and I just, you know, I think a lot of us were, and when you have that level of awareness, you can, you know, it's easy to fall into the like sort of superiority, you know, like
us versus them.
Yeah, it's a no dichotomy.
Yeah, and that's a constant inner I call it like an inner battle. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I have these two sides of myself, and one of them is just heart-based and just cares about everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And I just, you know, I want everybody to be well. I want everybody to be at peace. I want everybody to see that we can get there together. Yeah. Right? And then there's this other side of me that's like, those fucking assholes. Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
When are they gonna wake up? Wake up!
It's your fault that this is happening.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, and then you can get into these more complex, you know, philosophical discussions about blame and who is to blame, and is there blame, and this and that, and, you know, what's the difference between blame and accountability, and what's you know, what's the difference between you know, like we were talking about the other night, like non-judgment and like, you know, like holding people accountable and maturity, and, you know, all these different facets, man. And it's like you get people that are looking at it from every possible angle, but it's really like it's almost like it's all sort of coalescing into a singularity. You know what I mean?
I feel what you're saying, and like the way that it showed up for me just now was around the mental body being like, okay, so we know this philosophy, and we can talk about these things in a philosophical manner, and like sort of morally what's, you know, superior or correct, or what's right action, you know, or right thinking even. But then there's like the embodiment of that knowledge through that, when we really anchor it in ourselves, and it's not just in the mental realm, that the aura that we give off, or the frequency with which we are vibrating because of that knowledge is embodied in us, is what can actually affect the others that are like not quite there yet, and helps us sort of like raise them up, because people have to go through their own sequential like experience to get to where,
absolutely,
you know what I mean? And it's like, we can't expect everyone to be on the same like place, all like at the same level all the time, you know. And Yeah, so that's kind of what I think about it, because I do think there's like there's truth, like objective truth.
I agree.
But
100%.
but there's where it exists in the mental realm, like talking like we are now, or like just philosophically thinking about it. But then there's embodying it and leading by example through how you act and whether or not you're reactive and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's actually where I was headed to. I heard something earlier. Can't remember the exact phrase that was used, but it was something to the effect of, like basically they were talking about how to teach, right? And it's like you can explain things, which is good. It's useful. It has its place, right? But people really learn through your example and through you embodying, practicing what you're preaching, right?
Right.
And that can sometimes be easier said than done. I've preached a lot of things on here that I haven't necessarily yet been able to fully adhere to, but I keep chipping away at it and moving closer.
We're sort of setting up the wave, you're setting up the form, like, because it happens in the mental realm first, I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
you set your intention. Totally. But I don't bullshit myself or any of you about the fact that I'm not there yet in all these different areas. But it's a work in progress for sure.
For me, it's definitely coming back to it over and over again. You know, and like
those cycles, and it really does correlate with the astrological cycles. And I think we're kind of, did we mention this yet? In what after we've started recording, we were talking beforehand, but we were talking about like moving into the Aquarian energy and just personally, and I don't know how you feel. I think we're on the same page though. Like I have literally in the last 2-3 weeks felt like things are just really lightening up energetically. Like I mean, I've personally done a 180. I don't really want to talk about it yet, but like things are opening up in a really positive way in my life. And I just had a conversation with one of my best friends from Maine. We went to middle school together, and she was telling me about some changes that she's been experiencing the last few weeks. And same thing.
Yep.
Totally different reason for it, but like we're at the same place. It's like, wow, I feel so much better. Like I've let go of so many things that I needed to let go of. And it's like within the last few weeks. And it's like the thing I think that needs to be understood about the astrological alignments is that it doesn't necessarily, the effects of it aren't necessarily going to happen that particular day. Like it's like the day that like a certain planet moves into, a sign or a house, right? It has after effects. There can be a little bit of a lag time, right? And so it's like we're moving into this Aquarius energy, and it's like I think people expected it to happen like December 21st, right? Yeah. And it's like no, give it some time, especially where we're here in physical reality. Manifestation takes a little bit more time here because of the density of the sphere that we exist in.
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah,
I think of it as like a glow sort of like where does the light end, like from that's coming off of a light bulb, so like it's gonna get darker the further you get away, but there's a glow and there's levels of it and there's like a peak, also. So yeah, there's definitely, when it comes to planetary alignments, I think there's like a glow, and then there's like an apex and then sort of an afterglow.
Right.
That's how I visualize it in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel that it's in every or so many different, cultural stories, how there's like a new dawn or a new earth or a new, the fifth sun, like in the Mayan stuff. And the Aquarian age is the other one. And then there's like the ending of the Kali Yuga. And as far as like exact dates and all of that, it's kind of like, what is time? And it's definitely cyclical, but then there's like, how do you line up these calendars, and they've been messed with, and like, is there really 60 hours in a day, and is it all exact like that, like, or not 60 hours, 24 hours in a day, 60 seconds in a minute or whatever.
Oh well, we've kind of arbitrarily decided like to split time in certain ways.
Yeah, it's like we're cutting it up, and it's like, but then time has this quality where, you know, it can feel like it's going by really slow or really fast, or like, you know, and it's I feel like it's very mutable. I don't think it's a fixed thing.
Can you define mutable?
Well, I would say, like, it's malleable is, I guess, the word.
Yeah,
malleable is the word I was looking for.
Yeah. I don't have a good working definition for mutable. That's why I asked.
Yeah. I think I was thinking of mutable in the way like astrology does.
Right. I knew that's where you're headed with it, but I haven't looked enough into it.
Right on. Yeah. I don't actually have a good definition for it either in my mind. I just knew that it meant like changing.
I'm not an astrologer. I follow it.
I'm not either.
I listen to the people who know what they're talking about. But yeah, we're definitely experiencing some shifts. I'm experiencing some personal shifts. It's really interesting how, you know, we have this, well, it's really like a new age concept of like you create your own reality, right? Which to me is sort of like a half truth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
that
lot
new
of
age bullshit.
yeah. There's a lot of nuance to go into with that, right? But one thing that we certainly do create is our perception of what is around us and what we are experiencing.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm just noticing that even physical reality is pretty malleable in terms of the types of experiences that we can have. And I've really found you know, one phrase that we often hear that sounds a little bit cliche, but there's really a lot of truth to it, is like that whole what you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
I've really noticed that there are certain experiences that seem to just not happen anymore when I no longer have an emotional charge to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, including the types of relationships that I attract, the types of friendships that I attract, different scenarios that, you know, I've repeated over and over again. But you know, if it's something that I have deep-seated fear with, or if it's something I have a lot of anger towards, you know, it's like I tend to continue to go through those until I get to that place of center and to that balance point, to that 0 point, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, it's just all of a sudden, you know, I've personally done a lot of work. I know you've done a lot of work. I don't feel like you get to having this level of conversation without doing a lot of work. You know, not to toot our own horns, but you know, it is what it is, right?
I like that. It is what it is. Like, it's, like assigning the quality to it of being like good or better, or, you know, it just is what it is. That's good. I like that. And what you're talking about, I think, like, that's what I was talking about surrender. Like, when you get to, like, more opening, when you come across that, you come against that same pattern, that standing wave, like, that you're just like, gosh, I can't move past this. And like, what it is like just an opening. Like, I let go of this resistance to this thing. I'm just going to let it be what it is.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it shifts and you're just like, oh, well, that was easy. Why did I spend so much time fighting against this thing? Like, resisting this
it's like the molecular crystal lattice just...
Yeah, it just opens up for you.
Changes.
Stargate. Maybe, you know, that's like a portal. It's like,
you know,
okay, we're going into a new timeline now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's literally... It's definitely not set up the way that we were told.
No, it's not
at all.
I'm just trying to navigate, like figure it out. And it's kind of like kind of like when it comes to that, like the matrix, the true organic matrix, and how it operates, and what is a portal, and what are, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, we didn't go to a class for that. Like, nobody did. So I'm like, I feel like I'm somewhat blindfolded as far as, you know, any terminology goes, or like how the structure of the universe is set up. And
there's a lot to get into, and I know
when
that
it comes to the stuff that Ashiana Dean was like, you know,
sort of
that's
like, where I was headed.
Yeah, it was like, I'm just like, and that's like blowing my, it's like, this is like college level master's degree program. Like, I'm like, I feel like I'm in preschool when it comes to that.
It's like you're getting a PhD in metaphysics if you can like get into that stuff and actually know what you're reading. Like, I've read tons of it, right? And like, I can get the basic gist of it, but there's still so many details that I just look at and I'm like, I need someone to like explain this to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
One thing that kind of just came up for me, and I'm just going to be a little bit vulnerable with you guys and with you, Rae. So when I said, you know, you have to have done a lot of inner work to be having conversations at this level, what came up for me was actually a twinge of like, well, I'm going to say fear, right? Fear of judgment. Like this fear that those of you who may be watching the video might think, oh, well, he's full of himself. Oh, he's arrogant. Oh, well, he's this, he's that. And we actually touched on this topic the other night during one of our conversations. And it's not really something that I've really spent a lot of time like consciously exploring.
So you're doing it right now in real time?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. Let's do some therapy. But so like we have this cultural thing, right, where, you know, it's like everybody says, believe in yourself, be yourself, you can do anything, you're a powerful being, you're this, you're that, right? But then if you speak about yourself in a positive way, right, or, you know, especially, and of course, you know, especially if you do so in a way that a lot of other people wish they could do, right, all of a sudden you become a narcissist, or you become an egomaniac, or you become full of yourself, or you become arrogant, right? So how do we make that distinction, and how do, like, and I'm just asking for your opinion on this, how do we make the distinction between like what's prideful, what's arrogant, what's, you know, being an egomaniac, what's being a narcissist, and what is actually just being like loving of ourselves, and like giving ourselves due credit, right, which we need to do, right, without, I don't know, I mean, I guess, is there any way to do that without having people react negatively to it and get triggered, and should it matter?
That's such a great question. Like, and it was a lot. Like, so I love that. Should it matter? Like, first of all, there's no way to be yourself without somebody having an issue with it. Most, especially if you're like have an audience, like like where a lot of people are privy to, you know, and can have judgments around about whatever it is that you're saying, because
I've noticed that.
Yeah. Because the
most of you are amazing. Most of you are amazing, but you get a few haters.
But that's the archontic energy, you know, is just the judgment. It's the mind virus. It's the machine. Some people call it. You know, there's different ways you can address, you know, or like label that thing that happens inside of us, where we go, do I agree with this? Don't I agree with this? Is this bad? Is this good? You know. And you're evaluating constantly, that evaluating part of your mind. And so people do that, and they have, you know, they have opinions.
Yeah, Bruce Lee says, don't think, feel.
Nice, I like that. Yeah, exactly, because you can get so trapped in the mind. So should it matter to you? No, other people's opinions shouldn't matter to you in that way. I don't think, like you shouldn't not be yourself.
Right.
And then, you know, always be yourself. And then in always being yourself and accepting yourself, you'll be able to tell for yourself in that moment, or maybe a little later, what that thing really was for you. Was it you patting yourself on the back in an egotistical way, or was it you just being real, or what, like, you know, what prompted you to say that? And who fucking cares? Like, at the end of the day, it's your journey. And but I think that there is this cultural push to, you know, you can be
what that is
awesome.
Neuroticism.
It is.
And for me, that doesn't usually happen anymore. But there used to be a time where that was like everything I did, and my mind was going in 30 different directions. What's this person gonna think?
Yeah.
What's this person gonna think?
Mm-hmm.
It was driving me insane. Anyway, I didn't need to butt in.
It will.
That was where I was at, and that was just a little leftover fragment of that.
Yeah,
know?
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's fun to go down those. You know, it's fun to talk about all this stuff. And to go down those rabbit holes and, like, you know, figure it out, because it's important. It's something that we all experience. So, but to finish my my answer, I think that there is a cultural, you know, there's like guidelines within which, you know, the culture says it's okay for you to be like, you know, do your best, you know. You can be anything you want, like what you were saying. Right. Within these guidelines, though, like, and like once you step out of that, it's like there's definitely this cultural push to like, to like not think of yourself in a very good way. If it wasn't like that, people wouldn't be, you know, making emotional purchases to like make themselves feel better all the time. We wouldn't be targeted in that way, you know, and we are. So there definitely is that. And that's another thing that they do is it's all about confusion. So they give us two separate messages. One is you're great, you can do anything. The other is stay in your fucking lane. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
yeah.
It's definitely
it's definitely set up that way too.
It creates a dissonant, you know, frequency.
It's a dialectic within.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
And we're all dealing with that to varying degrees, for sure. But they certainly want us, you know, having that inner battle. Yes. All the time.
And that keeps us totally distracted.
Yep.
From what we're here to do.
Right.
Or whatever our mission is. And and it's all about that. It's all about distracting us and just sucking the life force from us in any which way that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why you know, I know that you've watched some of my content, and those of you who've watched my content, especially if you watch some of the earlier stuff, I mean, I really just like, especially in the beginning, I was just like vomiting at the camera. Yeah. Like, this is me, motherfuckers, and I don't give a shit if you don't like it, because that was what I had to do to like assert, like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have anybody tell me who I am.
Yeah.
Because I had been letting people define me for so many years that it was like this pendulum.
I was just going to say, like,
I was building energy, building energy. And it's like, finally, when that blew, it's like, boom, like, I'm going to make 10 YouTube videos a day, and I'm gonna be a crazy person because I fucking can.
Yeah. Yeah, motherfucker.
You know, like,
yeah, I totally get
and
that.
nobody's gonna stop me, right? I'm gonna express myself, and like, you know, it came full circle, and now I'm here, and like we can have like a balanced, like somewhat normal conversation, if you want to call this normal.
I don't even know what normal is.
And I mean, normal to me, it exists less and less. I mean. I haven't met anybody I would call normal in a while.
It's a crazy world right now too. Like everything's like all upside down, and you know.
Yeah.
People are saying Alice in Wonderland, you know, topsy turvy. Like.
It's interesting how in this area, there's a lot of Alice in Wonderland like murals and like you know.
Yeah. It's definitely a thing that's stuck in the human in you know, in the collective conscious as being somewhat important somehow. You know what I mean? There's a message there.
It's almost like it's a modern version of some kind of mythos. You know,
right.
I haven't read the book, and I haven't watched the movie in a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm not really totally familiar with all the symbolism.
Yeah.
But there's definitely something there that is it's tapping into the collective psyche somehow.
Yeah, it's an archetypal story.
Right. It represents something for us that I think it's kind of like the tarot. It's something that it applies to all of us somehow.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. It's definitely like an underworld journey. I mean, I can say that straight
like
up.
Hero's journey. Yeah.
Well, definitely like an underworld. Well, the hero's journey, that's like every story, you know what I mean? Yeah. But definitely like that underworld and the fact that the main characters are female, and that's like a story, like the goddess in the underworld is like a pretty common theme. And which is interesting how, you know, I've heard like Laura Eisenhower talk about that. And she said something like, you know, can we like stop this story of us having like go under like being kidnapped and like going, you know, the goddess like being kidnapped and going to like we're over it, like we're ready to move on now.
Let's clear that cycle. Yeah, we don't need to do that again.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like I'm good with like I don't need to go through cataclysm again. I don't need all this, man. I'm chilling. Like I don't want to do all that anymore. You know,
it's pretty extreme, man.
I really don't even want to be like in. To be honest with you, there's just a lot of times like I don't even want to do battle.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of being a warrior. Like I'm just tired of the fight. You know, I want unity. I really just, you know, that's really the type of energy that I want to move into. But the current, you know, external energy and the current situation we find ourselves in, and I keep finding myself in that warrior vibe, in that like, divided consciousness where it's like, there's this thing externally that like
I have to
fight against, otherwise like it's going to destroy me and hurt the people that I care about, the people that I love, and like that kind of thing. And it's interesting how that dichotomy with that wanting to fight it and resist it, and then the surrender. It's like it's really a mind fuck. Like it's like, which one do I do? I'm not sure which one to do here.
Because you can't
I feel like
it
I
from
should
the mind.
fight.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when I let go and surrender, it works out better. Which one am I supposed to do here? Yeah. I don't always know the answer.
Well, I like what you said. It's a mind fuck, and I immediately went to like, because when you have that conversation in your mind, that's not the place to make the decision from. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Yeah. It is a mind fuck. It just keeps you in a trap. Like the mind just goes in a fucking loop, and ooh. I don't know if you guys heard that, but there was some crash outside the room there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's chaos everywhere.
The goddess, I feel like, is making like the comeback that the goddess energy is making and needs to make, and like that's the issue, like the main issue, is that surrender, and that type of warriorship is different than the masculine warriorship.
Why don't you tell us about that? Because I want to know about that.
Yeah, so I feel like the external yang, that whole thing, and like being focused on the external and like what's going on, and the world geopolitics, or all of that stuff. Not that it's not important, but bringing it back to where is it inside of us, and as like I'm like getting goosebumps right now, but as like that seems so ineffectual to our thinking and our way of thinking, that it's like, can really change is going to happen like that, and it's like yes.
Like what? Change is going to happen like what?
Like by changing ourselves, by going inside and finding that value that's inside of us, that's being reflected in the outer circumstance, and figuring that out. But to me, even it seems so ineffectual. Like when I get my mind involved, it's like, that's just passivity. Like that's never changed anything, and like that's how they win or whatever.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think that it's almost like we can make like temporary changes and like temporary improvements in the physical realm, right? But the permanent changes, like the ones that really shift everything, are the ones that happen internally.
High five on that. That was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks. But I really do feel that way. Like it's like when we each do that point. Inner work, that's when the whole energy, the system shifts.
Yes.
Like the foundational level of it, right?
Yes.
Now, what we're doing right now with the external stuff is it's like we're fixing the building, right?
Yeah.
We can fix the government, right? We can, tinker with this area, and, we can do this social program, we can do that, we can do this, right? But if the foundation's not good, which is our consciousness in general,
right,
it's never gonna be 100%. We have to fix the foundation first, which is going within, right? And
absolutely.
So
yeah,
we need that tower moment. Burn it down.
Inside.
Yeah.
Don't go out and burn buildings now. That's probably not a good idea.
That's right. Go Buddhist monk style and just burn yourself in the street. Wait, that was a joke. Don't try that at home.
I think that's been tried anyway. I don't think it was that effectual.
I could do like a mock version of it. I think that'd be fun.
Well, I mean, like an effigy.
Like wear like a suit, go running around on fire.
That'd be pretty cool.
I would do that.
I'd join you in that. People would freak out.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Chaos can be productive if done right.
Well, that's that Heyoka vibe that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that shock value of like like just waking people up out of their slump, because we get into these just like grooves, these grooves of consciousness that are just like, it's like a state of hypnosis.
Yeah.
And so that kind of energy, like that sort of shock people out of like into like something else, something weird's happening here. This isn't like normal. Like, this doesn't happen all the time. Like, and it really does help to like just shift people in different ways.
No, I mean, I think it's actually like comedy in general is just a really, really productive way to get people to look at things that they weren't able to look at before. You know, because it's a really like lighthearted way of expressing the truth. It's like I'm gonna make you laugh, but hey, look at this thing.
Right.
And then later you're like, oh wait, what did I just laugh about? Oh, that's kind of messed up. Like,
exactly.
We should probably fix that.
Right.
You know, like
it's such an opening, like humor and laughter. It's such a easy way to it's like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down kind of thing, you know? Like
yeah, totally. But you know that like Heyoka like trickster vibe can be like really
definitely.
You know? But it's
especially if you're the target of a joke, like, you know.
Yeah, everybody loves it when someone else is being, you know, made fun of, but when it's their beliefs or their behavior that's the butt end of the joke, it's, you know, it's like, oh, you can't joke about that.
But if you make it like
Yeah,
really good, you can't help it, and that's that opening where like when you're able to laugh at yourself,
yeah,
and your own like you're like, man, I'm petty right there, like
right,
yeah. It's good.
All the Sasquatch stuff that I did was all me making fun of myself.
Yes.
It was all me being like, yeah, I'm this crazy, like insane.
Was there like paranoia in there?
Oh,
like, mixed in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, like Agent Sasquatch was like checking the fucking rooftops. You know, we're on a covert mission. You know, like that's I mean, that was the whole point of it. Was like, okay, I was like seeing myself like being insanely paranoid after you know, legitimately leaving Scientology hell. Thank you, Scientology. And like, you know, I was literally doing things after I left that place, like putting my phone and my laptop in the microwave to serve as a makeshift Faraday cage and checking the rooftops and shit for snipers, and like very focused on like situational awareness and like all this crazy shit. Like I was doing just like I had like anti-intrusion devices in my room. Like I basically lost it, you know, and but I knew that I lost it. Right. So then I started making characters about how I'd lost it, and it was like, you know, making these really Sasquatch. It was a catharsis, but I also had to tell my story, and like basically no one was the wiser. Like nobody on there knew what I was doing. They all just thought I was losing my mind. And then later, like a couple of years later, I was like, no, like actually, if you go back and watch all of them, which nobody's going to do, but if they did, it was literally telling the story of what happened to me. You know, it was also me making fun of myself and me making fun of them, and like, you know, it was a whole hodgepodge of shit. But like, it was the strangest thing that ever happened. It was right when the Schumann started popping off. And I went into this very, very heightened state. If you actually go back and watch some of the original like Sasquatch or videos or whatever, and you like, I was like in this state. I was making like 10 videos a day. I was staying at a hotel. My quote unquote twin flame was there, the person that I identified with that energy and heart chakra opening and all that stuff. She was there, and like I was just like, it was like I was seeing synchronicity in literally everything that I looked at. Right. And like I was in that state. And it was like everything was just messages, right? And it was like I would just get this feeling, and it would be like, okay, this song, put it on YouTube, play it, hit record, and then I would just say some shit. And it wasn't even planned, but then if you would listen to it after, everything I said lined up with the music, even though it wasn't planned. Wow. It was like really strange. It was like, when I watched it later, it was like, wow, it looks like, and it even felt like I had taken like a big dose of like psychedelics. Right. But I wasn't on anything.
Yeah, you were in a heightened state of arousal, it sounds like.
Very heightened.
It sounds like you weren't very grounded either. Like,
no,
it's like
not at all. Not at all. It's completely in outer space. Completely in outer space. But like apart from what happened at that facility, which was legitimately traumatic, and you know, spending 8 hours a day in a room going, hey, look at that wall, thank you, look at that wall, thank you, look at that shovel, thank you. You know, imagine doing that for 8 hours a day for a month. I mean, that will break you. And that's what happened, you know. Right. Wow. So
that's
yeah,
really intense. I
it
wonder
was
what the
pretty fucking intense.
supposed
Oh, I could explain it all.
goal
I
of
can
that.
explain it all. It's to bring you into present time.
That's what I thought. I thought it was to bring you into the present.
It's basically like an externalized meditation.
But it sounds like doing it for that long would have a detrimental effect.
It does, but from their point of view, it most of the end phenomenon, which is the result they wish for you to have, a lot of them, probably most of them, have something to do with authority and control. Mm-hmm. So it's basically, being
because
willing
you're acquiescing
to,
every time that you follow their
being willing to submit to orders, and also being willing to give them, because you work with a partner and you switch back and forth. But what it does is it sets you up to be able to operate very efficiently and very well in a hierarchical control structure, right? Which is the point of it. And then it also uses essentially hypnotic techniques to put you into, well, I haven't reviewed this information in a while, but it puts you in a dissociative state where you're more easily subconsciously programmed. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're told in that state is more apt to become part of your subroutine, basically. Yeah. And the way that you think. I was never in my life more aggressive, more assertive, more productive, it was the most masculine energy I ever had in my life. It was literally replacing my entire personality. In 90 days, I became a totally different person. And frankly, what I became was essentially what I would call a clone of LRH, which is what that all does. What I believe is happening is it's essentially you're being possessed by the egregore of Hubbard.
Wow, that's really interesting. I haven't delved into Scientology or anything too much. I have a family member who works for the org here, but she seems very grounded. But I know there's different parts of it and different. It's probably like what do they call that? Need to know, like I'm trying to think of the right word, but
it's taught on a gradient.
Compartmentalized is the word.
It's definitely compartmentalized. Yeah. It's set up like an intelligence agency, basically, or any military operation.
Got it.
It's very much set up the same way as that, and he did that intentionally. And I just want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. Excuse me. I've arrived kind of at a place of balance with it, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, the people that I worked with at that facility, these were not evil intentioned people.
Right.
These people were doing what they believed to be right. They were trying to help me. Mm-hmm. And, at the time, I was also...
you were in a vulnerable state.
I was in a vulnerable state, but I'd also made the decision that I'm here, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it an honest shot. Now, I ended up finding a lot of things that I didn't like and I didn't agree with. Part of that had to do with my personality structure, though, because I have serious issues with authority.
Right.
And so when I started figuring out that, like, hey, this is a lot about authority and controlling people.
It freaked you out.
It freaked me out, right? And I started to rebel against that, but I did it secretly and covertly so that they didn't know, right? And none of this was planned, you know what I mean? But there were just, in terms of the tech fucking works.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were saying how, it got you into this state. I was thinking about how if you have that knowledge and can use it for yourself, like, it's just knowledge.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Then it can be very beneficial, and so, like, the tech, like you said, works. And
tech works.
And then it's like, what are you using it for? So
right.
Because I feel like there's a lot of truth in what Scientology teaches, and like there was a lot of things that I benefited from when I took a couple courses like a long time ago, and I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and the low level stuff is amazing. Like when you go in and do like the introductory courses. Now, of course, I haven't actually gone to an org and done that stuff, but I'm familiar with a lot of it, and I've looked into a lot of it, and a lot of it is just really useful information that anybody could benefit from learning.
Right.
I don't like and again, the tech, a lot of it is really on point. They've actually got a lot right in terms of metaphysics and things like that, and a lot of it is kind of repackaged occult knowledge. Now, I can go into where I think that comes from. I don't want to do that today, but
yeah, I didn't know we were going to start talking about science.
Yeah, I didn't really either. It just sort of came up, but
but interesting.
But yeah, there was one more point I was going to make though. It's a lot of it is repackaged occult knowledge. And you know, like I said, the tech does work. It's just like anything else, though, and you and I agree on this point completely. It's a tool, and you know, what matters is how you choose to use it. And I didn't agree with the way it was being used, and I wasn't given a say in that.
Right.
And I wasn't given a say in terms of how it was being used for me personally, and that I will not stand for.
Yeah, you weren't in on the whole. I
wasn't given disclosure.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't told what it was all about and what they were actually going to do and how it all worked.
Yeah, it was just like, here, do this. Yeah.
I was lied to, and you know
that's shady.
That's fucking shady, Scientology. I know you're watching.
Agent Sasquatch is
going back into the paranoid energy, but yeah, they probably fucking are. They probably got like little bots that like are scanning like the YouTube algorithms for anybody that uses this Scientology keyword. Oh, we better keep an eye on this guy.
Right, I do think that.
I get my eye on you too.
I think that they're probably any organization that gets like super big like that and is like involved with the same people, you know, that run in those circles of like with Hollywood and all that. They're probably watching.
Yeah.
They're probably all the same people.
Yeah.
At the top.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I don't know that. I haven't researched it, so.
We could go on for hours about this because I got all kinds of information.
Yeah, where do you want to take the conversation?
Well, I don't like engaging with those people, so it's not really my thing.
Heard.
I'm totally open to having a discussion though. Mm-hmm. Like I've actually thought about like, you know, maybe like let's hear their side of the story, man.
Oh right, like
come on my channel.
On,
come on my channel, and you know, be willing to answer some questions honestly, and I'll interview you, and we'll hear your side of the story. You know, I'm willing to do that.
Right.
I'll give you my side of the story. I'm willing to be balanced and objective about it. You know, if they can bring up some points that maybe I hadn't thought of that make sense. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm willing to hear them out. You know, but like I don't think it's gonna happen because, you know.
Well, we were talking about human design.
Vulnerability.
I was telling you about the sacral, the gut response for you, and
yeah, actually, I was going to ask you about that earlier.
Yeah, so
because
like,
you were talking about how do you make your decisions.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that a little bit, about the different ways that operates? Like mine's obviously my sacral, my gut. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, so I forget exactly how many authorities there are. I'm not an expert by any means on human design. I'm like just starting my journey with it pretty much. Yeah. But it is fascinating and it's really, really neat. And it seems super accurate. So that's why I like it so much. And basically, there are different, what they call authorities, which is your own inner authority. And there's like 9 different centers that this system uses in the body. And
we can maybe even throw in a little image here real quick.
Yeah.
Just so that we can,
yeah. So there's 9 different centers in the body, and they can either be defined or undefined. When they're undefined, they're open to the conditioning of others who have defined centers, or the conditioning of, I think what they call the neutrino cloud, and I'm not really sure exactly what that is. So you guys
and just to clarify real briefly, it loosely correlates to the chakra system, right?
Loosely, the 9 centers. Yep, it does. Yep. And they use the I Ching in the system. They use astrology in the system, and I think they use some stuff from Kabbalah.
Yeah. So they're drawing on different disciplines.
Yes, exactly, and it's sort of a synthesis of these. And yeah, so when it comes to authority, different people have different authorities. So for both of us, we have a sacral authority, which means that we literally get a gut response to for decision making.
And I have learned to listen to that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's kind of known. So basically, they say that 70% of people are generators, is where you would have that sacral
so this is common.
on. And so it's common. And so because of that, it's commonality. You can find a lot of books that talk about listen to your gut.
Sure.
Always trust your gut. That's like it's a known thing.
But there are a smaller percentage of people that have a different.
They have different
authority.
Yep. So some are emotional authority,
which would be more.
It's a different center. So like your emotional center, the way that they, the image will. Show
yeah.
You can show
Is
that.
it the one in the liver?
I think that's the spleen one, splenic authority, which is intuition based. It's fear. It's fear based. Oh. It's like, do you feel a sense of fear about this? If so, then that's like a no, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, the emotional authority is like apparently there's like an emotional wave, and so emotional authority types need to take time and space away from a thing to make a decision because they need to have a yes feeling on the crest of their wave and on the trough. So like they need to ride that whole emotional wave, and if it's still a yes.
Right. So for us, it's more of an instantaneous thing, and for them, it's kind of like
they need to wait. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And take time to make important decisions.
And there's a few other types too that are less common.
Yeah, there's a ego authority, which is like this center in here, and I don't know about that one, like what they're, how they are supposed to make decisions, but all of them pretty much, I think, or almost all of them, you don't want to involve the mind in decision making. So,
interesting.
So basically, like how you have that
like
gut.
It would be the opposite because it's called ego authority.
Interesting. Yeah. So the ego is more like the self, the center of the seat of the soul.
Okay. So
in this system.
Right. Right. Okay.
And the not self is what we would commonly call ego. They call the not self, which is anywhere where you're open to conditioning.
Right. Yeah. You were going to explain something else a second ago.
Yeah.
You said you know how.
Yep. So how we have a gut decision making process. You'll have that gut reaction to something like maybe be like, oh no, I don't know about that. But then your mind will go, but maybe you should consider it.
Rationalizing.
Rationalizing. Yep. Yeah. And can work in the opposite too, where like your body's saying yes to something, but your mind jumps in and says, well, you have these responsibilities to take care of. You should, that sort of whatever it might be to like pull you off of the path. But that for us, for sacral authority types, we really just need to listen to that gut.
Right.
And sometimes it's a maybe, which means just wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's important to know too, because that was not really information that I had. Someone mentioned this to me actually, probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't really look into it though until you showed me the chart. I was aware that I needed to listen to my gut just from experience.
Yeah. Totally.
Because it happens so many times.
It's natural to you.
It also, when I stopped drinking and when I stopped doing all of those other things, I became more sensitive to it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where before it was a lot easier to ignore. Now, when that feeling arises, it's like, oh, that's there. Oh, that doesn't feel good. Oh, that person's energy is not good. Like, I better pay attention right now. You know what I mean? Totally. Whereas before, I was just kind of more in a haze and a little more foggy and not really listening to myself. So.
Well, yeah, you're like numbing that feeling.
Yeah.
I also think about the intense assault on our gut by the powers that be or the dark side.
Do you mean the literal gut?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and it is correlated.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that it disrupts our ability. I feel like I've been thinking on this a lot. How much poor gut health might disrupt your ability to hear from your gut in a way that's right and discern.
I would completely agree, and
with the GMOs
is a
and
huge problem.
Mm-hmm, it's huge.
Gut health in this country is generally very poor, due to the substances, the alcohol,
antibiotics,
the sugar, antibiotics, you name it, go down the list, man. The fact that we don't get enough roughage, that we don't get enough fruits and vegetables and things like that in general. Some people do, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, like the standard American diet isn't really too focused on
if you look
vegetables.
at the food pyramid, it's absurd. Because I'm sure you've looked into probably a lot of the same people that I have, and it's just.
I think the number one thing personally is over dietary choice or dietary lifestyle is more than anything, the genetically modified foods and the chemical fertilizers and pesticides.
Yep.
That's really because basically when it comes to or do you want me to speak on this for a moment?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. When it comes to, I want to check in with you. When it comes to glyphosate, basically what they say is that it's okay for humans because we don't have this specific like channel where this like
metabolic channel.
Yes, a metabolic channel where this thing happens with the insects, where they do have that channel, and so it hurts insects, and it basically like blows their stomachs up or something, and they die. It's an insecticide, and
Are
then
you
there's
talking about BT corn?
oh wait, that's the one with the insecticide,
Yeah,
and then there's a pesticide one.
Right.
But basically, our microbiome, our bacteria in our gut does have that channel. So there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though human beings don't, it's not like it's not affecting us because our gut and which is our immune system, like 80% of our immune system,
right,
is in our gut, and tons of brain cells.
And you have more bacterial cells than you do your own cells.
I was gonna say it's like 90% of who we are is bacteria. Like it's crazy. So we're actually an ecosystem.
Oh yeah. Yep. And you literally do have, if you go back to, what is it, like the three chakra system, right? You've got your
the Dantian thing and
right.
Okay,
your first eye, your third eye, your second eye, right?
Oh, okay.
But you've basically got three brains. You've got your head brain, you got your heart brain, and you have your gut brain.
Yes.
And there are neural pathways and neural connections there, and like, what's the number one killer of people in the United States? Heart disease, right?
Yeah.
You don't think that's having effects on our ability to love, to our ability to receive love? Of course it is.
Absolutely.
It's literally just a physical manifestation of what everyone is feeling inside that they can't identify, let alone express, let alone have that need met. And hence we see this projected out into the reality field. Same thing with the gut, it's literally like a physical embodiment of the destruction of a part of our intelligence that needs to be rooted to the mother, rooted to the earth, that we're not. Wow, I just actually got chills.
Yeah, I've been getting chills this whole conversation.
That was the first one for me, but
nice.
But like,
yeah, because the earth is that ecosystem too, and whatever the glyphosate and all that stuff is doing to the earth, it's happening in our guts. Like we are a microcosm of the earth.
Absolutely.
Of the earth's ecosystem, and that she's a microcosm of us, and so it's happening to us.
But this, I look at this this contrast, right? As it's like right now we're having these physical ailments, which is causing us to have to go inward and having to look at, well, why is this happening, right? And we can look at the surface level of it and fix the building, right? Changing our diet, doing this, doing that, right? But then we can get deeper and we can look at the emotional level, and we can look at the etheric body, and we can look at all the other subtle bodies, and we can get into what actually led to this arising in the first place. And we fix that foundation. That's when we personally blossom, and then we're able to anchor in, that ray of light, right? That kundalini, right? And become that beacon for others, and allow that information, basically, is what it is, to transmit through us and through our YouTube channels.
Yes,
we're doing our best, Do you want to wrap it up? I'm feeling it's starting to get dark.
Yeah. Time to transition.
It's time to do the Super Bowl thing. Eat some burgers. So
I guess
any final words?
Well, just what you were saying about taking it back to that level. I think I'd like to close with a thought, and that is that thing really is about us giving our power away, or being like giving our ability to like procure food and all that stuff. We're like giving our authority away to these like multinational corporations and everything. And it is through I've noticed for myself, and I don't want to put this on others, but through like laziness, okay, so like how hard is it to grow a garden, you know, like, or whatnot. And it's like it is through a sense of like this convenience, you know, bought into this matrix world and how easy it is just to go like buy things, you know what I mean? And so giving our authority away in that way, and also like through ignorance, because you know, or giving our trust away to the wrong people. So having discernment about you know, who to trust when it comes to like science,
right,
and all of that stuff.
I'm totally with you. I mean, I'm totally gonna do the homesteading thing, and I've been slowly getting myself healthy enough to do things like grow a garden and do those types of things. But totally gonna get there. And you know, I want to share something with you, and I want to share something with you guys that I heard earlier. I was listening to a guy lecturing about. He was actually talking about vitamins. But he was talking about like vitamin C therapy, you know, mass dosing, like
intravenous vitamin C.
Yeah. But he said something that was so right, so spot on. And he, you know, he was just like, he's got a website. I can't remember the guy's name, but his website's called Doctor Yourself.
Okay, right? Nice.
And I guess it's just like full of studies and information and just all kinds of stuff. But he just gave a little bit of like a metaphor, right? And it was like, you know, he was like, work with a doctor, you know, but ultimately, like, you are the authority. Like, this is your job site. Like, you are like...
Yeah, the doctor's a consultant. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, the way he said it was like, you're the construction manager, and your doctor's the subcontractor.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they work for
Yes.
you. You make the fucking decisions, right? Like, they don't get to decide what you put in your body. They don't get to make your health decisions for you. You are sovereign and you have autonomy, and like, that is it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck yeah. But yeah, so solutions, you know, be your own authority.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, you are intelligent and you have the ability to make your own decisions in your own life. And I would say anybody who tells you differently either wants to control you or does not believe in their own ability and their own intelligence to make their own decisions in their own life. And that is their burden to bear, not yours. That's my statement. That's what I'm going to say. You know?
I'm just going to fully agree with you. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks. All right. Want to be done? Wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll have another conversation. You know,
thank you so much for coming on the channel. This was a lot of fun. And we are going to do another video together. Probably be like a little bit more of a brief video, but we're going to talk about... it's just going to be a really honest video about the pros and cons of like kava and kratom, because we actually met in the kava community in St. Pete, Florida. And it's been an absolutely amazing experience. Like, I love the kava community. It's one of the things that keeps me here. And you know, kava and kratom have both been useful tools for me. But there have also been some things that are a little bit concerning, especially if like with anything, you take it to an extreme, right? So we're just going to talk about that in some depth at a future date. We were going to make it today, but I think we're going to wrap this up and we'll make it, you know, in a week or two. But yeah, we'll be back. Rae will be back on the channel, Rae of Light. She's going to have her own channel soon, like we said. And when she does, I'll definitely be letting you guys know and dropping some links and stuff like that. So
thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Thank you, Rae. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you again. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below and click the icon to your left to subscribe. New content every week about spirituality and addiction from myself, Joe Fortin. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.